Hello and welcome to episode 19 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, December 9th, and I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning, bright and early.
Very early, especially for you. You're 2 hours behind, so it's 6:15 in the morning, but 8:15 over here. I stuttered on the number, but I got it right. 11:19 is the right number. Got the date right. I'm all over it, but I was not all over it. I sent you the rundown on Wednesday night saying, hey, man, it's all ready to go for tomorrow. I was a day ahead. I'm so eager to discuss this. We're doing obviously another transactions episode because there's been so much that I'm like sending you the rundown the night before. Like, hey, man, I'll talk to you tomorrow. You're like, what?
I didn't even get a chance. You corrected yourself
before
that's
you
true.
Got a
chance to respond.
I figured it out, but I'm like, you were probably looking at it like, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been such an active free agency that, it feels like every time we don't talk for an hour, 2 or 3 moves happen. And so, I mean, it felt like, if you were just going by how many moves have been made, it felt like, it'd been at least 48 hours, if not a week since we last recorded.
But it's been great. And you and I were actually just looking up before we started some of the older winter meetings to kind of see when the last time is we had such a banger, because, it's been definitely a while. We knew that. Last year, the lockout was a nightmare. The Panini the year before. The 2019 one, I think a lot of people don't remember. That's Manny Machado's class. And I quizzed you on when he signed. I'll give everyone a moment to think. Guess your date that Manny Machado signed. It was February 21st.
Yeah.
And it was not an anomaly in that there were other guys who had signed late. It was just a really weird offseason. So we've been getting some real dud off seasons here for reasons sometimes outside of baseball, other times self-inflicted wounds, like the lockout. But this has been amazing. It's back to, old school. Ton of stuff happened, bunch of stars signed. So enough preamble. Let's get in. Let's start with the big dog staying where he is. Not a whole lot of analysis there because he's not changing teams. But what did you think when you saw that after all the back and forth, Aaron Judge stays in New York for the big fat deal?
Yeah, I couldn't have been happier for him, for me. I mean, worst case scenario, I felt like he would sign with the Dodgers or the Padres from a fan perspective, right? Being a Giants fan, I was really afraid he was going to sign with the Dodgers or the Padres. And clearly, as we'll talk about with Xander Bogaerts, they apparently made a bigger offer to Judge than the Yankees did, and he took the Yankees' offer to return to New York. Which I think is a little bit surprising, but I guess not super surprising, considering how high the tax rate is in California. So, and then the second worst case scenario is going to be my Giants signing him. One, I think it would have been horrible for his fantasy value. But two, I don't want the end of that contract. Like, I really just don't. Like, I don't think.
It just seems impossible that it's going to. And listen, I don't want to get all hung up on that. I don't want to rain on fans' parades when their team signs somebody, because we've seen some discourse about it. It's not your money. And I agree with all that, right? Like, let the players get paid. This, more than some of the other ones, though, like, it's not hard to see it going bad pretty quickly due to his body, not his skill. I'm not here to say that Aaron Judge isn't a god. He is, but he played the $155 in 2017, then languished through a few seasons, did play 148 in 2021. It's not like he was on the sidelines a whole bunch in 21. So we've got back-to-back full seasons here of excellence, but he's going to be 31, and you're signing the big deal there. Hey, as long as they keep giving him the special balls, though.
Oh my God, what a nightmare that is. And like, I haven't read like the whole report on that, but MLB, like, how dumb are the people who run MLB or whoever's in charge of the balls? Because I mean, you have to think that Rob Manfred at this point isn't the one who like is doing this shit necessarily, but he's responsible for all the people that are like.
That's part of being the king, Yeah, you wear it all.
How do you not think this is going to get figured out, especially with so many reports on like the state of the baseballs?
It's the same people doing the reporting too.
Yeah,
you think they're just going to give up?
What they're going to do, continue to check these things. So,
and instead of being on the up and up, they're trying to persecute people who are helping Dr. Meredith Wills and others, like
Yeah.
people who are giving them the balls. They want to attack those people instead of not freaking have 3 different baseballs. Like, how about you don't have to worry about undercutting people if you just have a straight up baseball? It's bad. And I got to be honest, it's not getting enough attention.
It's not.
It's just really, really not. And maybe this, because of the bonanza that we had, our eye is just drawn, especially for us, we're in fantasy. And I'm not saying that the ball doesn't matter for fantasy, but we're the cat chasing the laser pointer. We see all these moves. We're going to focus on that. Plus, I don't think either of us are super equipped to have too deep of a discussion on the ball stuff because we're not scientists.
No,
I trust the people
I'm
who
far
do.
from a scientist.
I trust the people who did do the work, though, and it's a super effed up situation that I think deserves more heat. And I didn't mean to derail us on it, but Aaron Judge was a prime beneficiary there. And I'm not trying to like undercut his season or whatever, but the simple fact is he got a better advantage.
Absolutely.
That was talked about in the article. So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen with the ball. Nobody's paying for 62 homers from him anyway. What do you see as a follow-up now that his home stadium won't change? What do you got Judge for as a loose projection? I know you've been working on pitcher projections, so you might not have done anything hitter-wise.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, what are you expecting on a Judge if you wind up with him in the first round? They got 44 and 106 with 10 steals chipped in as the steamer projection. Where do you come off on that?
Yeah, I would probably come somewhat close to that, probably a little bit under. But I think you gotta project him for like 650 plate appearances or somewhere around that. 40 home runs, 10-ish stolen bases, and then 280 batting average, something like that. Like,
yeah, they gave him a 276, and maybe that's just age regression of being 31, but he's 284 career for Judge, 311 this past year, 287 the year before that. It was 257 back in the 2020. I don't give a crap about that. So then you're looking at 272, 278, 276. It has to just be a little bit of age regression, which I get. But I think he can be a batting average asset again. And the thing of it is, because we saw the 16 steals, people are going to think, okay, I'm getting 5 categories. I would project him more for like 7 or 8, just to protect myself from expectations, knowing that I could maybe get double digits from Judge. Are you taking him in the first round, though? Like, is he somebody that you're looking to get when, let's say, you have like the 6th pick and he's still there?
I don't think I'm taking him that high. But I think I would consider him in the back end of the first round.
Something with a double digit, 10 and beyond is when you start to consider.
And I'm really kind of torn on where I would take him, only because outfield is so bad that I can make the argument that you should take him earlier. Yeah. So the question is, do you want to start with that level of risk? Because I know he has had 2 full seasons of over the last 2.
Mm-hmm.
But I still worry about that body holding up over the course of full seasons. And so would you rather take him versus a guy like Mookie Betts versus a guy like Juan Soto? I struggle with that. And I probably would take those guys over him.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because you talked about with Judge that one of the reasons that you would be interested in taking him is the dearth of outfield. But if you're taking another outfielder in that spot, then you are still addressing that dearth there. And you got Acuna, J-Rod, Judge, Tucker, Soto, Betts, and Alvarez all going in that first round, because not only because they're great, but also because that outfield, you really want to lock that up.
And I'm probably taking all of those guys outside of Alvarez over Judge, because I think Alvarez has a similar injury risk, right?
With those knees, I mean, his youth is helping him at that end. I do worry about how those knees are going to age with Alvarez, but hey, great for Judge, great for the Yankees, gets paid and well deserved. He's going to remain a top half pick on average, although his max pick was 12 for Aaron Judge. Now I'm actually looking at a more refined period here. I've been looking since December, only. So I've only got a 12 draft sample, but he's been living in the 3 to 7 range there for Aaron Judge. So I don't think either of us, excuse me, are really looking to take him there. I'd be more in on Tucker, Rodriguez. Acuna usually goes ahead of him. And then Soto Judge, you're going Soto, you said?
Yeah, I'm going Soto over Judge. Yeah.
Me too. All right, let's move on then. Xander Bogaerts, former division mate of Aaron Judge. He's not going back. He's going to the Padres. And you talked about how the Padres had a big deal out for Trey. Apparently they had a big deal out for Judge. They end up with Bogaerts. And I think a lot of people are perplexed by it. Maybe the term and the fact that they have, three $300 million players now with Soto, Machado, and Bogaerts. But I'm wondering, like, oh wait, no, not Soto. Who's the other one? I thought they had 3.
Tatis.
Oh yeah, duh. The guy who's not there. That everyone's like, where's he gonna play? He's an outfielder. I've been feeling that since he got hurt that he's gonna come back as an outfielder.
He's gonna be the left fielder, I would assume.
Yeah,
right?
I was not surprised that they were in on Trey and then ended up with Bogaerts. I don't think that crowds things the way other people do. Cronenworth's going to be the first baseman. Kim's going to be second. Bogaerts going to be short. And even when Tatis comes back, which I believe his suspension ends in late April, I think he goes to the outfield. I completely believe that he's going to be an outfielder. So I don't think it complicates things. Let's focus on Bogey, though. He gets paid, gets 11 years. He's going out to San Diego. What do you think? What do you think we see out of Bogaerts in San Diego year 1?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I haven't looked quite at the park factors yet on him moving to San Diego. I mean, I'm always kind of skeptical of a guy in a new stadium, new league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a great team, right? Like we have him batting 4th in this lineup, and probably continues to bat 4th once Tatis comes back. I think Kim then probably slides down.
Yeah, I love Kim, but you got to slide him down there. But I don't think he loses his job. Again, I really believe that Kim will remain the everyday second baseman and Tatis will be in the outfield. So
he's like a $15 million a year player too. So
that's the thing. They brought him over, for a deal. Oh no, it's actually $7 million. That's not.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
4 years, 28. So that could be a utility player, but I just don't think he'll have to be. So let me give you some numbers on Bogaerts that might color where you're at with him. He really loved Fenway. He leveraged that part for his career. 872 OPS, 758 on the road. Now, we don't just go around and say, okay, somebody like that, just take their road numbers and that's who they are. That's not the right way to do it. But you have to look and think, okay, he was this dependent on Fenway for a lot of his numbers. He's not going to get that same boost at home. Doesn't mean he can't perform. It's just a matter of, will he get better on the road to mitigate what he loses at home? Or maybe he will be that successful in San Diego. Part of, good home numbers are just the fact that everyone's better at home. You're more comfortable. But I also think it's Fenway, which is a nice place to hit for a guy like that who can just blast the ball off the green monster all day. So knowing that he has the big split, does that make you put Bogaerts down a little bit?
I don't think it necessarily puts him down a little bit, but I think I will just be a little bit more tentative on pulling the trigger.
Okay. He's the 10th shortstop off the board right now.
Yeah.
In these 12 drafts during this month. He's below Edman and Swanson and O'Neal Cruz, and I'm not sure I agree with any of those 3. Oh,
definitely not. I'm bringing up my ranks right now, but I'm pretty sure I've got him around 7. Now it's projection, so once I finish my projections on definitely, I have him 8th. So I mean, for me, the question is, would you rather have kind of the safety of Bogaerts versus the upside of Tim Anderson, who can't stay on the field, Dansby Swanson, who, will the park change? Have an issue, be an issue for him. He's previously had injury issues as well. And Fernando Tatis, who is coming off suspension. I think there should be massive questions about Tommy Edman, considering the Cardinals apparently were in on all the shortstops as well. They haven't signed one yet, but they've reportedly been in. Like, could Edman end up moving into some sort of super utility role? Does he get moved off? Because as much as we love him for fantasy, a real life, value on a player like that is lessened.
True, but he's coming off a 6-win season.
I understand.
He did a lot for them. Now, I don't know if they want Edman as an everyday shortstop. That I can agree with. But I do think that if they found a shortstop, if they were on a Dansby or a Correa, I don't think it murders Edman. I do think he becomes that super util. Or honestly, I think Edman plays over Brendan Donovan. So
I do too. The only problem is Donovan is one of the few lefties they have in that lineup.
That's also a good point. But at least Edman wouldn't be hurt by that because he's a switch. But I hear your general point there. So going back to Bogaerts here, I'm surprised he's this low. And I guess it's just because I haven't done a draft in a while. That is really, really low at shortstop 10. I know it's just the depth of shortstop, but he's even after a cliff. You got Edman at pick 77, and then Bogaerts jumps down to 90. So he's almost a round later there. I mean, I'm in on that. I love Bogaerts. Yeah. He's steady, like you said. You're buying the safety of just production there. I think he'll be fine. Now, I do have a little tentativeness about guys in the first year of a huge deal. We've talked about that a bunch. Shouts to Glenn Colton and Rick Wolf. That's part of their smart system as well. Totally agree with that. That gives me a little pause, but I do think that this price kind of bakes in some of that risk. I would normally be a little bit find Bogaerts a little risky, but now that the price has come down, I think that kind of matches some of the risk.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I also think that we often, or I, at least personally for me, like I'm more worried about that typically for pitchers than I am for hitters.
Me too. And that's where it started for me was a pitcher thing. And because like when I started adhering to that, I didn't even know it was part of the smart system. So I wasn't trying to bite their stuff at all. But they have it for all huge contracts, which I can totally get. But it was mostly a pitcher thing for me. And I don't think Bogaerts is going to go there and put up like an 80 WRC plus or anything like that. But, he's been at a solid 133 since 2018. I think I'm projecting him for more of a strong, healthy 120 WRC plus type season from Bogaerts. What do you think about that?
I think that's probably pretty fair. To me, Bogaerts is one of the safest shortstops.
Yeah.
Obviously Trey Turner, extremely safe, but you can't say that Bobby Witt's extremely safe. As much as I love Bichette, we saw the downside early on. You rebound.
He had to rally.
I know you rebound, and you rebound great. But like there is some risk there. We've seen down seasons from Lindor. Tatis, obviously there is a huge downside.
Yeah, we know that downside.
Yeah, those people who spent the second overall pick on him last year early on in draft season, that one hurt. So Tim Anderson, I love Tim Anderson on a per plate appearance basis, but how many plate appearances are we going to get? So like Bogaerts is that steady Eddie, and I think that is one of the reasons why he's actually down, because I think early drafters often reach for upside.
They want that flash
a little bit more. And
he was unsigned. And we talk about this phenomenon a lot. All the unsigned guys are just a bit cheaper. So we'll see if he starts to matriculate up a bit. We'll let a few more drafts get in the books before we look at that. But don't be surprised if he jumps up to that 7-8 range, in the 70s pick range there, because Cruz, Swanson, and Edman are and Seager actually in the range of 70 to 77. Bogaerts could join that crew now that he's signed.
I think he will. Yeah,
it's never that we're worried that they won't sign. It's just that the market wants to see where they're going to be at. So there ends up being a little bit of a discount. Let's move on to Willson Contreras. He ends up in St. Louis. I think when you're looking at Contreras and then Sean Murphy on the trade block, Contreras as a free agent, Sean Murphy on the trade block. We've got and Danny Jansen also on the trade block. We got St. Louis and Houston filling their catcher holes in some way, shape, or form. One down. St. Louis goes ahead and gets the division rival Willson Contreras and brings him over on a 5-year deal. Houston hasn't done anything yet, but I think they'll either trade for Dan Jan or Murphy and figure out their stuff. Let's focus on what St. Louis does. They replace a guy who's been there for like 40 years, I think is what Yadi Molina's career was. Literally 20 though. That is crazy when you have 2 decades locked up behind the dish there essentially, and now you got to have a new guy come in. You steal somebody from a division rival who is excellent. He doesn't catch the same way that Yachty does, but Willson Contreras can hit the hell out of the ball way better than anything that recent Yachty Molina's been doing, or even really peak Yachty Molina. What do you think of Willson Contreras heading over to the division rival Cardinals?
This is an interesting one because I originally was all like, well, and I said this on Twitter. It's how I got corrected. I said, like, this is a great team contextual move for Contreras, right? Like the team is just going to be that much better, and he's going to hit probably in the middle of that lineup in St. Louis, if not near the top of that lineup, depending on just how they construct that everyday lineup. But the park sucks. Like that's a pretty bad. But I got corrected by Matt Kupferle of Friends of Fantasy Benefits and FTN, and he said, like, Busch Stadium actually played really friendly last year, and so if you take off like the 3-year rolling, you see that it was like a top 10 park for right-handed hitters last year, which is crazy. Now, this CJ Kaltenbach, who's a big Cardinals guy, he was like, you know what? He goes, I don't know how sticky it is. Like, I think that's pretty fluky. I thought you were going to bring up something else though
that I want to add into this while you're talking. Wrigley also didn't play very friendly.
Yes, and that's what he's.
That's how I thought you were going to go on that piece. Not bringing. Yeah, I forgot that St. Louis actually played pretty well last year for righties, but Wrigley didn't either. So comparing to the 2022 park factors, this is a big park advantage for Contreras. But looking at the 3-year,
if we think that is going to,
exactly, that's why we do 3-year though, and because it weeds out some of the noise. But then at 3-year, Justin, they're dead even, 97 apiece for righties. So once you realize that the park move isn't that severe for Contreras, how did that alter your outlook on him?
It makes me feel a lot better. I still am a little bit concerned that the park will not play as well as it does traditionally. I also worry about the plate appearances now because in Chicago, he could DH a bunch. Will he be, a regular DH guy to keep him in the lineup with how stacked that team is? I mean, we're talking about, guys like Nolan Gorman and Juan Yepes on the bench regularly. And like obviously he is a better hitter and more valuable team than them, so maybe he will get a lot more DH time. But I worry, like, will he be able to get to 450 plus plate appearances as easily? He's done like 480 each of the last 2 seasons, but that's been with a lot of DH time in those 2 seasons. So
maybe dialing back up to over 100 games catching will be in the cards for Contreras.
That's potentially true.
I was going to say because he didn't last year, right? Because part of that playing time that you're talking about with Contreras, 39 starts at DH, 72 at catcher. That was his lowest for any of his full seasons. 116, 99, 133, and 108 the years before that. Yeah. So maybe that allows the Cards to push him back up to those 100 levels. And maybe he's not DHing as much, but it's also not costing him too much on his plate appearance total. So valid point, but there is a way where he still gets to like the 450 plus, even though he's been at 480 the last 2 years. Do you think the production stays pretty much the same though? 20 something homers. He had high 50s ribbies. I think he can get back into the 60s on this club, and then a batting average around 240, 245 ish. Do you see that for Contreras?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I don't think the production really slips that much. And, as much as I probably sound pretty negative right now, ultimately, I love Willson Contreras. I love where he's going. There are going to be a lot of drafts where he drops because people are so enamored with the young crop coming up. I've already drafted him twice, I think. I took the Contreras at first pitch.
That's right.
Arizona. I believe I took him in another draft as well. So, I mean, I like the cost this year, and I think he is about as stable as you can come and about as safe as you can come with a starting catcher outside of like spending a second round pick on JT Realmuto.
Exactly. It's the price that I like so much with Contreras. In the December drafts, pick 101. I'm paying that all day. Another staying put, big move last night. Brandon Nimmo, 8-year deal. And again, we really just care about next year, so we don't have to get too hung up on the deal. I will say, though, I was a bit surprised that he was able to get that term because you talk about health, and this was his first healthy season ever at age 29 last year, and it was a fantastic year. But you're talking about 92 games in 21, 69 and 19, and then his previous high 140 back in 2018, 69 the year before that. That is a little bit nerve-wracking. He's a guy who has remade himself in the field to where he is a quality defender. So you got a quality defender who gets on base like crazy. That could age well. I mean, the plate skills will age well, guaranteed. But will the body? That's the part that I don't know. So again, I don't want to get too hung up on the long term of it because we're in fantasy. We go year to year. But what did you think when you saw that he got the 8-year, basically the Shin-Soo Choo deal without being Shin-Soo Choo?
I mean, he had more plate appearances last year than he did in 2021, 2019 combined. Which, like, there's one season that's the outlier, and it's last year. Like, I
mean, it just totally is, right?
This was another one of the guys the Giants were rumored to really covet. And I can understand why they didn't go as big. I mean, I'm shocked he got this kind of contract. Like, he's a 29-year-old guy who's been injured the majority of his career. He's had like serious back issues. Like, this feels like a massive overpay. And obviously, like, you know, it's the Mets money, and the Mets were in on, you know, a number of guys and missed out. And they went, we're going to get our guy back at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in order for them to compete, they have to spend, unfortunately, because the Braves have such a huge advantage over the rest of Major League Baseball with like some of the young guys that they've locked up long term. Like they have such a huge advantage having Albies locked up and Acuna locked up and Michael Harris locked up and you know, at under market value deals. So I don't know what is his price right now.
For Nimmo,
yeah.
It's going to be fair. I don't feel like he gets overrated. 176, the 41st outfielder off the board. That is in the drafts here in December. As I mentioned, I'm just going to keep mentioning that so people know that we're looking at a more limited sample, but I want to get a more fresh sample. So yeah, 41st outfielder, pick 176. How does that suit you?
That's a pretty big jump because he was like 194 in just like if you looked at all of the draft champions. So that means he's been moving up fairly quickly.
He's there with the guy we're going to talk about here in a moment, Mitch Haniger, who is weirdly listed on San Diego. We'll have to get NFBC to fix that. Oscar Gonzalez, sure. Riley Green, Cody Bellinger, who are also.
I'm fine with him there. Like that is not like that. That seems about right. If he moves up if he starts getting into the Stanton and Christian Yelich, Anthony Santander, like Taylor Ward area in like the 130s,
you're out on Nimmo in that case.
Then I'm out. Like and honestly, I probably won't end up with him very often. Like I think he would need to drop. I do think he'll get the traditional bump of, hey, guys in the news signed a big deal. He'll get bumped up, and if that is the case, I'm probably out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like Nimmo. I was so happy that he was able to stay healthy last year, and seeing what he was able to do with a full season of health was great. I can't bet on that again, though. In fact, I feel like a projection with him, I'm closer to like the 120 range. I don't know. I don't know that 1 year, especially at age 31 now for Nimmo. I don't know if that wipes away all the concerns. Excuse me, it will be his age 30 season. He is currently 30, but actually, no, he's not even currently 30. I don't know what I was thinking there. But yeah, so it'll be his age 30 season, but that doesn't change that much, age 31 to age 30. I like Nimmo. I agree with you. That price is fair, but if it jumps up, another round or two, you're going to find me on the outside.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Josh Bell. Big move here. First off, Cleveland stepping up, doing something. It's not a massive move overall, but for them it is because they usually sit on their hands a bit. They don't do a whole lot. They cry poor quite a bit, but they go out and get Josh Bell. I think this is a great move. You want to talk park factors. Going to Cleveland is going to be a really nice move. Now, he's a switch hitter, but he's going to be able to take advantage of the fact that most of his at-bats are going to come as a left-hander, where hitting in Cleveland is great. That's the 6th highest park factor. It's a 107 home run park factor, which is 8th best, actually tied with Coors for 7th best. So I like this move for Josh Bell. I like this move for Cleveland. What'd you think when you saw this deal?
I mean, I love this. Like, I didn't think Cleveland was going to sign any guys, and so this is why I hadn't really considered like him ending up there. But it's like the perfect spot for him, and it's the perfect guy for Cleveland. Like, they don't have to break the bank, but
it's a match made in heaven. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's, and he has an opt out, so like if he reestablishes his value, he can opt out and go back into the free agency pool next year and try to get more money for a deal. So yeah, I think it's a great landing spot. I think people are way too down on Josh Bell right now. So like I like his ADP has been extremely low.
19th first baseman at pick 193 for Josh Bell here in December. That's in between Cronenworth and Seth Brown. And then Rowdy Tellez, Ty France, Ryan Mountcastle are the next 3 above that group. And that feels light.
You should be using more than one draft. December only has 1 draft champions draft.
Oh, what am I getting then?
You probably have all drafts.
Oh, I do. You know why? Because that's the way I had to do it. Remember when you couldn't do? You're right. By the way, we shouldn't be just using one draft.
I'm going from 11-15.
I'll change that. Remember when the ADP data first started, though? If you selected draft champions, nothing would come up. Yeah. But now that they have the gladiators, okay, that's a good call. So some of the info I gave is actually a little invalid because those gladiator drafts change a lot. So using your 11-15 range on Josh Bell, that actually moves him down.
Yeah, he's the 23rd first baseman at 205. Like that's
crazy.
Insane price. You have Seth Brown, Luis Ariz, Joey Meneses, Brandon Drury all going over him.
No.
He will move up. He will move up for sure. I think there were some concerns like, hey, what he really struggled once he got to San Diego. And like, what is he going to even have a full-time role at a new location? He's clearly going to have a full-time role in Cleveland. And so I expect him to jump up probably to that Ty France, Rowdy Tellez.
I was just going to bring up Ty France. How is he different? How's Josh Bell any different than Ty France? And they're not that far apart.
I'd argue that Josh Bell has a much greater upside.
I would too, because we've seen a 37 homer season.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think he is likely the most underrated first baseman in the pool this year for fantasy. And I think this was, I mean, outside of him like landing a full-time job in Colorado or Cincinnati, like, is there a better job than this? Like, I don't know.
A lot. I think this is great. And by the way, the aftermath there will be Josh Naylor will now go full platoon, as he should. This could be a less is more. You guys know I'm a big Josh Naylor guy. I'm not out on him after this. Usually you just want the volume. We can give back those lefty plate appearances. He's not doing anything with them. He has, let's see, what is that? That's going to be 217 plate appearances against lefties since 2021, 512 OPS. At least he was consistent. He put up a 512 in 21 and 22 for Josh Naylor with 2 homers and 16 ribbies. You can give those numbers back. He can have that volume, that little extra volume for the blast on your rate stats isn't worth it. So I think that's a less is more situation with Naylor. If you were in on like a Will Brennan deep league play, he is hit pretty hard by this because I think he's going to go to the bench now, where it looked like maybe he was going to be able to start a good bit. He now goes into a bench type role for Cleveland there. So Will Brennan could still find time. You know, he could wiggle his way in there. You know, if they don't want to go with Miles Straw as much.
Yeah, because I mean, we talked about Oscar Gonzalez, like the underlying plate skills are amazing. Injuries happen. Like, you know, I mean, this is, it's not like Naylor's been the healthiest guy. Like,
Exactly.
there are plenty of ways in which Will Brennan can become interesting, but I think at this moment he becomes more of a draft champions play as opposed to a regular league. So like
Completely
a draft
agree.
and hold, a best ball, like a late kind of pick in those leagues, as opposed to being a guy like a real sleeper for fab leagues.
I totally agree there. By the way, just to catch up on some of that bad data I gave, Willson Contreras is the 7th catcher off the board, pick 102. So similar pick, but higher up. I think he was 9 or 10 when we said it. And then let me look at Nimmo just so we get that updated. And we know Judge is still an early first round guy. Nimmo is the 40th outfielder, pick 182. So not that different. But yeah, I was using faulty data there because now with the Gladiator drafts, you do need to select draft champions there. So thank you for correcting me on that. Let's talk about Mitch Haniger. I briefly mentioned him earlier. Like I said, for some reason, NFBC has him on San Diego. He's actually on San Francisco, wrong California team. Now, this I think you could warm up to as a Giants fan. I think this is a fair deal here to go for Haniger. I think his power can play anywhere. He was doing it in Seattle. I don't think San Francisco is going to be all that tough for him. Health is a bit of an issue, but you're not putting out a ton of money. It's a 3-year deal. What do you think of Mitch Haniger going to your team?
I think this is a perfect deal for my Giants. Now, I hope it's the perfect deal because they're not going to be like a one and done in the free agency market. But we're starting to get to a point where there's not many big free agents left.
What else they going to get? There's some guys. There's still some guys.
Shockingly to the listeners, I really want Dansby. This is like when you look at the rest of the pool, I would be okay with Correa. I just worry what that contract is going to look like.
Oh, it's going to be so bad.
It's going to be so bad, right? Like or not bad. Yes, it's bad. Big bad. Like I don't like what the contract is likely going to be like. But to me, like I want Dansby, but like I felt like this is like the perfect kind of guy for them to bring in. It's a short-term deal. They're kind of betting he can stay healthy for a full season. The Giants actually have a really, really good track record with health recently. I think it was Eno. I can't remember if it was on one of his pods or just when I'm talking to him in person. Like he's talked about like the organization has really like changed philosophies and used statistics and underlying numbers to determine when guys get days off, and like they're really ahead of the curve compared to a lot of teams. That's why they've been able to bring in some of these kind of perennially injured guys like the Alex Cobbs and the Drew Smileys and even like the Carlos Rodons and keep them healthy for full seasons. So I trust that organization in terms of keeping guys on the field to the best of their ability. Now that hasn't worked out well for Brandon Belt, but I don't know one bad
do so much, right?
Yeah.
It's not magic. They don't have magic. Exactly. No offense to Bell, man.
It's not the Cardinals, right? There's no devil
exactly.
Magic. And I think the even year magic has run out at this point. So, I love Haniger. I've always been a big Haniger guy, and so seeing him with the Giants, I do wonder what they're going to do in terms of like defensively. Because this was one of the worst defenses in baseball last year, especially in the outfield.
Brutal, dude. It was so bad.
And like I mentioned, the Giants were in on Nimmo. So like I mean, it sounds like right now, unless they make a trade for somebody, and they haven't been a team, I don't believe, that's been in on like the Brian Reynolds is like they're probably going to run a platoon with Austin Slater and somebody. I mean,
Alex Dickerson, or are they both lefty? Do they even
Dickerson's not on yet.
No, they don't even. Austin Slater and like Lamont Wade.
Yeah,
they got Yastrzemski in center right now.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be Yastrzemski. Like
the outfield defense might still be challenged. He's not that good in center, is he?
I don't think so, but
I don't either. But I don't know how much.
I don't know. I don't like. Do they want Austin Slater playing every day? I don't think so. I think Austin Slater is a strong side platoon kind of guy.
Yaz was pretty good in center last year. Let me just give him his love there. 572 innings. He was not too bad.
Okay, so maybe Yaz is in center, and Peterson in left. That's still a really bad outfield defense.
Yes.
So if you thought the outfield defense was going to get better for the pitchers, you were probably wrong.
Haniger or Jock in the outfield?
I think you've got to go. Jock's really bad in the outfield.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, and that's what we've got at roster resource. Haniger and right, Jock at DH. He is a hitter only.
Roster resource also has Lamont Wade Jr. and he's brutal in the outfield. It's a pretty poorly constructed team, especially from a defensive perspective. So, while you give pitchers a little bit of bonus for that park, and the infield defense should be hopefully better.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantee of that because Longoria is gone now. Brandon Crawford's another year older. It kind of depends on what they do in terms of, do they add one of these shortstops? Like if they add a Correa or a Swanson and move Crawford over to third base, then that infield defense starts looking really good. But for all the bonuses you give those pitchers, you have to take a little bit away because of that defense. And Haniger will be a part of that. Even though I think he is probably an upgrade over like Lamont Wade and Jock Peterson playing out there full time. Like he can't make up for the huge deficiencies they've got right now defensively. From an offensive perspective, I don't think he's super hurt by the park as much as maybe people are going to say he will be.
Haniger, again, he was crushing in Seattle, which is not a good park to hit in. In fact, it's the second worst for righties over the last 3 years. And the Giants aren't 30th. So he's going to a better park. In fact, as we've been covering over the last few years, Y'all's Park is playing a lot better. 10th against righties for the last 3 seasons. That's really good. It's a park boon. Now, it's not for homers. That's overall park factor.
Yeah.
The home run park factor is 77. So that is bad. But extra base hits, he should be able to get maybe some more extra base hits. And maybe Mitch Haniger does lose a few homers. But what if he makes it up in average? What if he hits 265, but maybe a full season is 28 to 31 homers instead of the 39 that he hit in 2021? I don't think that's terrible for Haniger.
And I mean, in terms of power, you really have to look at the individual year breakdowns and stuff. Things change massively because of the weather in San Francisco.
Casual weather.
Yeah, casual weather is a huge thing in San Francisco.
That's such a deep reference. There are 6 people that are laughing right now, and everyone else what does that mean?
We've gotten it recently, so
I know.
I'm not going to explain it. You'll have to go find the casual weather episode from
from the Panini. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, exactly. But in 2021, if he played all of his games in San Francisco, he would have had 43 home runs as opposed to the 39 he had. And last year he would have lost a home run playing his games in San Francisco. So there's it really depends on what, how many night games they're playing versus day games, versus just random weather patterns. And so I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think this is a neutral lateral move to San Francisco in terms of the park. And the only thing is, how much does he lose in terms of the team around him not being nearly as good? Is the reason I didn't watch Judge is Haniger could hit 40 home runs. Will he have 55 RBIs with those 45 home runs? Because the team is still not good. I like certain aspects of it, but when you've got JD Davis playing first base and hitting the middle of your lineup,
he tore the cover off the ball with y'all.
Yeah, in the 15 games or whatever it was.
I'm just saying what he did.
I hope they give him a chance, but this is why I didn't want the Giants giving out a $400 million contract. You're not close enough to do this right now.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I mean, I think Haniger's probably pretty underrated right now.
Yeah, let me loop in the next guy here so we don't get too bogged down on Haniger, because I wonder if you would have rather signed this guy. Now, he is from the old division rival Dodgers there, but given the defensive issues that you're talking about, would you have been more interested in them bringing in Cody Bellinger the way the Cubs did?
Absolutely. I wish they brought him both. Bellinger,
that would have been cool.
But I think there was no way Bellinger was going to sign in what was perceived as a bad hitter's park, because he's trying to get a 1-year deal to reestablish his value.
Exactly.
I'm surprised he didn't end up in a better hitter's park than Chicago. Like I mean, I would have thought like,
It probably
hey,
came
like
down to
go
where
to
he can get
Colorado for a year,
but
or go to like
can he get
where?
a role, right? It probably came down to like who's going to commit to playing him for
Yeah.
Bellinger. And so maybe even a team, I'm not saying that he even talked to Colorado, but he is the right age. They consider him a prospect at this age.
Mhm.
So, he could have gone there, but at 27, obviously there's still plenty of upside, but there is downside with what he's done or hasn't done. But I think this deal is totally fair. It ends up being a 1 year, 17.5 mil, 12.5 guaranteed, and then a buyout if they don't do the second year. It's a mutual option. I like this move. The simple fact is that even as bad as this past year was, with an 83 WRC plus, that is horrendous. He was still worth 1.7 more because of his base running and defense, which essentially earned the base contract, which is the 12.5 mil. So it's not an overpay either. I saw some people talking overpay on Bellinger. I think people just don't understand how much players get paid, because it's not an overpay. I have zero issue with this deal for the Cubs.
Honestly, I thought he was going to get 20 million.
I thought he'd get 120. I did too.
I wish the Giants had give him 25 million. Like, he would have been the perfect fit for the Giants. You can put him in the middle of the lineup. He's going to play great defense, really make up for the deficiencies you have on the corners. How sick of an outfield would it have been for the Giants to have, Haniger, Bellinger, Peterson out there, or or Yastrzemski with Peterson DHing? Like, I think this would have been the perfect fit for the Giants. And it's not, you don't have to make the long-term commitment, right?
No. But what do you think about it for the Cubs, though? So they're going to get him. He basically, slots into the middle of their lineup. They lose Contreras. So, and it's not a 1-for-1. Obviously, Contreras was better. But if Bellinger plays like he can, then he essentially replaces the Contreras production. Are you back in drafting Bellinger?
At his current price, yes.
Okay.
And it feels like his signing is a little bit overshadowed
Absolutely
by a lot of the other ones. Like, he's currently going off the board as a 43rd outfielder, 188th overall, right behind our good friend Joey Meneses and the guy we've been talking about in terms of Mitch Haniger and
Nimmo.
Brandon
Right
Nimmo.
there. I was going to say,
I'll take him over all of those guys on upside alone. Like, we're talking about a guy who was a first-round pick not that long ago, has won an MVP, won a Rookie of the Year. He's shown some short videos of him reworking his swing. This, now we're talking, like, when I say short, we're talking like 10 seconds. Like, this is not like, it's not even 2 swings. It is 1 swing and smile at the camera type video.
I'm fixed.
And so,
he was the 38th outfielder last year on the auction calculator.
Because outfield's so bad.
Because it sucks, and he went 19-14. So he did hit 210. That obliterated your batting average. But he went 19-14 with the homers and steals. So there was some value there for Cody Bellinger. Realistically, though, what do you think? Does he get back? Does he get back to being a plus player? I know he can. Are you projecting it?
Bellinger? I'm not. No, I'm not projecting it. I'll probably project him for like probably a 2015 season with like a 230 batting average.
I would take that, though. If he was able to go 19-14, 210 and be a top 40 outfielder
with the potential, like, if we're saying like that is the median outcome, we're talking, like, you're talking about a guy who's potentially like a 40-20 guy, like,
yep,
with a 250 or 260 batting average. Like, it just, he's potentially a first round player, and like, none of the guys going around him are really potentially a first round player. I mean, obviously anybody can have like a huge breakout that we never see coming and stuff. It happens every, here and there. But like, are we really thinking that like Riley Green has a shot at being a first round player in 2024?
I think
probably not.
I think Harrison Bader does at pick 38 or at outfielder 38. But as far as the snapshot of guys I'm seeing in that outfielder 38 to 48 type range, I think Bellinger and Haniger are the next best options.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can make the argument like Whit Merrifield was just a second rounder and he's going down there. Michael Conforto, maybe
I,
like
I,
if
I well, I want
I
to say
don't
on Merrifield, I don't think he'll bounce back. Like he does not strike the ball well enough. I think the
my bigger
speed.
concern is the speed in Toronto. They didn't let him run.
That's the thing. It's not his speed. It's that they don't let.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing anything with the bat, now he hit 281. We talked about this with Merrifield during the season. He got back to being himself for most of the year. It's just that early part of the season killed him. And then when he got to Toronto, they took him off stopped letting him run, and he wasn't playing. So I know this is not a Merrifield discussion, but you're right to bring up that he's been recently good. But I feel Bellinger, has that massive upside. I can't say it's being overrated because pick 188 is just not that bad, but some people are just going to go down with that Bellinger ship for another 2-3 years because he's so young. You just know it's the case.
And I understand it, but at least now you're not getting penalized in the way that you were getting penalized.
Exactly.
Taking him at 130 last year or taking him in the top 50 the year before. Like you're not getting penalized in the same way that you previously had. So like
that's a very valid point.
I don't mind it. Like if you're like this is the time, like you guys at top 150 picks, that's when you start making the gamble picks, right? If you've drafted safely through the first 10 rounds or through the first 12 rounds in a 12-teamer, you now can go, okay, I've drafted safely. I haven't taken a ton of risks. Now I can take a few risks because if your 11th or 12th or 15th round pick doesn't pan out, like who cares? Whatever. You'll pick someone up off the waiver wire. Like you're not needing them to pan out.
That the range of outcomes includes not panning out.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't say it's a full who cares, but that's just in the cards.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That is there with Bellinger, and that will make him somebody that a lot of people are going to be excited to go ahead and take the gamble on. What about Masataka Yoshida heading out to Boston? I guess I should have said he's shipping up to Boston on a 5-year, $90 million deal, resetting the record for players coming over, position players, I should say, from the MPB. Seiya Suzuki's 585 did it last year. Yoshida gets $5 million more. What do you think about him with Boston?
I mean, I think this is a really nice signing by Boston. It happened really fast. I mean, he was posted that morning.
Yep.
And then signed, which makes you wonder, like, hey, how much of this?
It doesn't make me wonder. I know exactly that they had to have been
like this was already figured out, and they were just waiting for, waiting for the actual signing itself, right?
Like, because that's the only answer, right?
Yeah. So that being said, like, I mean, I like the signing for him. I'm trying to find. I saw Tim McLeod and Bubba Entrikin talking about it on Twitter, and let's see. Oh, there we go. It was because Bubba had just drafted Yoshida like right before they announced the signing.
Oh, that's amazing good fortune.
So Bubba asked, well, what do you think? Because Tim McLeod is our Japanese and Korean baseball kind of guy, and so Tim McLeod said 15 to 20 home runs, 350 on base percentage, and a pile of runs scored at the top of the Red Sox lineup. It was what he was looking at Yoshida being like, so maybe a little bit better version, a more powerful version of Alex Verdugo.
Okay.
Seems about right. So
yeah,
I'm totally fine with that. And like it's not like let's see, Yoshida's ADP is currently like right at pick 300 flat
on the button, but a range of 222 to 392, and this is in your 7 sample here. So how much is he going to go up, you think, for Yoshida?
I think he'll probably settle in around that min, so around the 220.
Okay.
Would be my guess. And then you're talking about him in the Michael Conforto, Ramon Laureano, Lourdes Gurriel, Brian De La Cruz area. I'm fine with that. Like that seems fair.
That all makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So Yoshida, obviously we haven't seen a whole lot, but he's been a very good player overseas there. A nice power guy, big time batting average guy. We'll see how much that translates. It's not a 1-to-1 with the MPB and MLB, but he's going to be in Boston. I mean, they got somebody. Obviously, Boston fans are still reeling from not getting Bogaerts, but they did get Yoshida, who is a nice pickup. And they also signed Kenley Jansen as we transition into pitchers here. Actually, we have one other hitting thing. We'll do Jansen since we're on Boston, then we'll get to the 2 Oakland hitters since they're not that crazy. But Kenley Jansen going to Boston should be their closer. That kind of puts out that kind of kicks the Tanner Houck thing to the curb, which they're already stretching him out. They mentioned that, hey, they're stretching him out. Whitlock has a spot. Houck's being stretched as a potential starter. But I think that fallback of him closing is now out the door with Jansen coming in. What do you think of Jansen as a Red Sox?
I mean, I think it's perfect landing spot for him. Like, he's on a good team. He's going to save a lot of games for the Red Sox. It's great for fantasy because it just takes out one of those situations that we just assumed was going to be in flux all year. Sucks for, a couple of my early DCs where I took a gamble on Matt Barnes late. But whatever. I think it's a fine spot. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like, I think he's probably a top 10, 12 closer, as he always has been, right? He's no longer the elite guy, but he is a pretty steady Eddie.
Okay. I think that's fair on Jansen. He's getting a bit older. I think the price is coming down with that age, though. And so, now that he has a spot locked in, he's the 91st pitcher off the board or 38th pitcher, 91st pick. That's going to go up now that he has a full-time role. It's on a perceived good team. But, Justin, is Boston actually good?
I don't know.
Do you think they will be? They're not. I don't think they are right now. I think a lot of things have to come together for them to be. What is the likelihood that they're like a legit contender? Without knowing what they're going to do, by the way. I know that they could change.
I mean, with the new playoff system and having the 3 wildcard teams, like, I think that obviously teams who wouldn't have been competitive, considering the playoff setup a few years ago, are contenders now. And so, like, could Boston compete? Absolutely. But are they the 5th best team in their division? Absolutely.
Yep. I mean, that's what they finished this past year. And I don't think that they're ahead of Baltimore right now. So that's probably the one team that you would say that they're ahead of if you're trying to look at it. But I don't think they're there yet. I don't believe in the
their
pitching.
Rotation is bad.
It's awful. Mean,
when Nick Pivetta is your number 2, you really, like, as much as I think Chris Sale's going to be fine this year, when he is the only stable, quote unquote, piece of your rotation, I know a lot of people are really excited on Bayo.
Yeah.
But like, we're talking about like James Paxton is their 4. Like, I like Whitlock a lot.
I like Whitlock too. Yeah. Like, there are guys I like, but the uncertainty of that rotation for a wannabe contender.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Is crazy. And so that's the part that's really tough there. But Kenley Jansen is going to be the closer. You can draft him confidently as a closer.
Right now, Eric Hosmer's their 5 hitter.
That's so vile.
Like, this is not the Red Sox and love. Like, this is shame on the ownership. I know, like, Bloom is like the general manager's getting a lot of heat right now, but this is all ownership just saying, we don't want to spend. Shame on them. Like, this is they are one of the richest franchises in Major League Baseball.
It's like when the Cubs were crying poor. It's the same exact thing, just in America instead of the National League.
Like, I mean, this team would look a whole lot different with Mookie Betts still on it, with with Bogaerts still on it. Like,
just one of them, right?
Now they're not going to re-sign Devers, right? Devers going to end up somewhere else, right?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly seems like it. Maybe he's the one that they pay, but yeah, who knows what they got going on there. I will be open to taking Jansen, but again, I don't think it's a great situation over there in Boston. Let's talk about Oakland's couple signings there with Aledmys Diaz and Jace Peterson, and then we'll get into the rest of the pitching moves. Neither of these are knocking your socks off, but we're both deep league players. And this Oakland team is still in a position where both of these guys could end up playing quite a bit. And I will point out that Jace Peterson in 328 plate appearances had 8 homers, 12 steals. He was a nice little fantasy find for folks off the waiver wire. And Aledmys Diaz, I don't think he hasn't really been great. He's kind of that boring glue fill-in when you need a guy for a couple weeks here and there. 12 homers, 96 WRC plus this past year, and 327 plate appearances. Do either Peterson or Diaz get you excited in deep leagues for Oakland?
Diaz, yeah, a little bit, just because he's going to play every day, and the one thing he hasn't been able to do in Houston is play every day. I don't think he's going to be like extremely special, but I think he can volume his way to some real deep league relevancy. Now that he's going to get the opportunities to get to 500 plus plate appearances in Oakland that he wouldn't have gotten Houston again. So, I think he's probably a guy that I'm looking to target, especially because I think he's still multi-positional eligible.
Should be. Certainly should be. So, again, these are moves. Both guys penciled in to start right now. They could make a lot of changes there. But I know that not everyone who's playing 10s and 12s is like, oh, Jace Peterson, Aledmys Diaz. But if you're in 15s and AL only, they're going to have some value if they're getting full-time burn.
Diaz should be eligible in the outfield at second base in standard leagues. But in Yahoo, he's eligible at short, third, second, and outfield.
Ooh, okay. And what about Peterson? Does he have any dual eligibility?
That's
third base only, according to NFBC.
Let's see. So in NFBC, just third base. He'll add outfield in Yahoo. So
okay. Yeah, if you have a 10-game requirement or lower, you can get Jace in there with 14 outfield games.
Peterson, I don't really care about at this point in his career. Like,
double-digit steals each of the last 2 years, though.
Yeah.
Any interest there with the speed?
Maybe a little bit. Like, he could maybe be like a 10-10 kind of guy over the course of a full season, maybe even 10-15, something like that. Which, deep league has value. Diaz, though, Diaz hasn't had more than 400 plate appearances since 2018 with Toronto. And I think he's gonna get close to 500 plate appearances there. So I think both have interesting value and deep performance, especially draft and holds. These kind of guys are often discounted, but I think they're gonna have some sneaky little value this year.
Yeah, I tend to agree there with Jace Peterson and Aledmys Diaz both in Oakland. And I wasn't checking the clock. I didn't realize we're at an hour. So Jansen's going to be our only pitcher today. We're going to do the rest of the pitchers on Monday because I know you need a minimum of an hour on Andrew Heaney alone. So give you the runway there.
I'm for sure going to do an hour on clearly the best signing Texas has had
ever
in the history.
Yeah.
Ever, like you said, it's just, I will.
So I want to give you the proper runway for that. So we're going to go ahead and cap it here at an hour, covering all the hitters and one pitcher. And hey, maybe we'll get more moves over the weekend to make Monday's episode even more robust because we will have the 6 pitcher moves that we haven't talked about, and they're not super high impact. So give us a little Carlos Rodon signing to put a little cherry on top of that so that we're back for that. Monday, again, we're doing Mondays now instead of Tuesdays. So just want to let everyone know you don't have to wait as long for us. What about you and Jason? Do anything on Sunday?
Couldn't record last weekend because he was traveling around, so I will check in with him and try to get something on the books before we obviously take some time off for the holidays because Christmas and New Year's both falling on the weekend means we're not recording those 2 weeks. So I'll try to get something on the books either this week or next week, or maybe both with Jason. And maybe if not, maybe I'll just pull in a special guest or something like that.
That sounds great. All right, Justin, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you over the weekend.
Take it easy.